And 4 people have been killed with 10 others abducted by bandits in separate attacks on communities in Igabi, Chukun and Kajuru local government areas of Kaduna State. The bandits are said to have invaded Makbe village, Gidan district, Chikun local government area at midnight and abducted 10 persons with 3 others injured. One resident says the gunmen came to the community around 12 midnight and started shooting sporadically. The Commissioner of Internal Security and Home Affairs, Samuel Arwan, confirmed the killing of 4 people in the 3 villages. Arwan in the statement says 1 person was killed in an attack on the Nasarawa Kalgo community at the outskirts of Jaji, that's Rigan Chukun district of Igabi local government area. Arwan says the bandits also attacked Kujama Chukun local government area but were repelled by the local vigilante.
Joining us in the studio is the Rise Analyst, Dr. Biodun Adeniyi, to help us make sense of the whole issue. Let me start by welcoming you to Newsnight again. Thank you. Good evening and welcome. Yeah, where the matter of the service chiefs and the perceived boycott was concerned, was it merely a matter of protocol, or does the president really need to have sent something to them based on what the Constitution says?
Yeah, I think it's a legal matter. It's a procedural matter that was missed, perhaps for some reasons around oversight, or maybe taking a coordinate arm of government for granted. Do not forget that it was a minister in the present administration, as a private practitioner, Festus Kenyamu, SAN, who went to court and said that the president shouldn't have that unilateral power, to appoint service chiefs without the consent of the National Assembly. And to that extent, it is just expected that every such appointment should have the consent of the National Assembly. It came a little bit late. Maybe this is an oversight that the president is trying to remedy.
But it's sorry, okay just to interject very quickly, the presidency is stating clearly that they had sent the letter on the 27th, a couple of days before
the announcement
they made the announcement that the letter was done. But it was silent as to whether the letter was sent. It just says the letter has been ready a couple of days before.
Yeah, and if it was received.
This one, it still comes back to what we're saying, that perhaps there should have been some, proper assertion, maybe a better definition of what happened or the actions that transpired in the process. Why the silence? We are the democracy. There's supposed to be openness and transparency. But be that as it may, perhaps we can take solace in the fact that we are moving forward. The letter has been sent. It's been public knowledge now. The Senate is on recess. We expect that by the time they resume, they will promptly act on it. It is, of course, we can also take it for granted that, of course, there won't be any objection, because it is very, very important that we approach security issue, with the urgency that it deserves.
Absolutely, especially looking at what we're getting in terms of the insecurity all across the country. And Kaduna State, for one, we're seeing a lot of peace agreements reached by both the government and some of these bandits and community leaders. But it seems like it's not abating, talking about the banditry and all of that, or whatever criminality element you want to call it there. But do you think with this new service chiefs coming on board right now, this is the criminals or the bandits wanting to actually send a message to say, okay, we're still here, or do you think it's business as usual?
Well, the change in services is just symbolic. We can only hope that they'll be able to effect some change, but we only have to keep our fingers crossed, because the damage has been done. After all these years, there have been outcries, that this service chiefs should be changed, but there was a reluctance on the part of the presidency for reasons that we probably do not know, and telling us that perhaps, yes, there were outcries from the Senate and from the generality of the populace. There was a reluctance, no doubt, showing that the president acts only when he wants to act, perhaps not in deference to public opinion. That is understood.
It is
but again, the danger in that is that, you know, there's an action, you know, that is showing the absence of the right reflex, you know, in dealing with an urgent matter like insecurity. You know, it may not be a hands-on person, but we need something much more drastic, something much more handsome, you know, to deal with a situation like insurgency or overall the insecurity that is growing across the country. I will know the implication of this insecurity for the populace. Not just the victims are affected, but the entire populace, because we all seem to be living in a cage, in an atmosphere of fear, as if we are under siege, and dangerous for the polity, dangerous for the economy, and for the overall progress of this country.
The newly appointed Chief of Defense Staff, Major General Lucky Irabor, says the new security chiefs will hit the ground running immediately following their assumption into office. Speaking after the official handover, Major General Irabor promised to take significant decisions that will improve security situations in the country. Let's just add this to the conversation with you, Doctor. Well, in terms of what the president has done, we know that there was said to be a 2013 Supreme Court judgment that said this is what has to be done going forward. But everyone that has searched the Constitution did not find anything in the Nigerian Constitution that says categorically that for service chiefs, the president must get confirmation from the National Assembly.
Yes, Kay, but I think lawyers will tell us that, you know, there are several bases on which precedents are established. One is court judgment, the second one is the Constitution, and maybe the third one are black letter laws. You know, so all those things are reference points, you know, for us to progress or for us to define standpoints in terms of making references to processes and procedures, you know, as prescribed by rules and regulations. So along that line, you will say that, you know, we should have followed.
Well, thanks for staying with Arise News, and you're watching Newsnight coming out of Nigeria's capital, Abuja. Now, the Joint Committees on Electoral Matters from both chambers of the National Assembly at the ongoing retreat on the bills for an act to repeal the Electoral Act is insisting that the ongoing electoral amendment process will not in any way tamper with the provision of the Constitution on the 18 years voting age as established by law, that a person was attained before they become eligible to vote in a public election. Adeniyi, let's talk about this right now. Well, some people would say for the fact that the National Assembly has started really early to really talk about electoral amendment bill, you know, as we move closer to 2023, hopefully we'll see a new bill. And of course, looking at that meeting, they are actually calling for scrap of the Electoral Act as amended in 2015 and to replace it with something they call the Independent National Electoral Act Commission Act 2021. Let's look at this bill now. Some of the proposals were saying, why is this issue of 18 years, which is what the Constitution provides for voting age, why is it a major issue where we're seeing some members and even some senators push for underage girls in particular, since they are married, to have voting right? Why is this an issue at this point in time?
Well, Amaka, the National Assembly has, you know, is a reflection of our plurality. And because of that, you expect to see differentiated opinion, you know, and of course they have this freedom, you know, to ventilate, you know, to express themselves as much as they want. But there's a difference between expression and the prospect of realization or actualizing, you know, what you think the situation should be. 18 years is the suffrage age the world over, and I don't see that passing through. You know, that is one. Then secondly, for this, the one thing you will not take away from this INEC is the absence of consultation. They are very, very consultative. They expand their course. They listen to all stakeholders as much as possible. And of course, in the build-up to the 2019 election, we're expecting that the electoral amendment bill will be passed. It wasn't passed. It's a salutary now that we are having talks around, you know, further amendment, perhaps, you know, to further perfect our election ahead of the Anambra election and in preparation for the 2023 general election. But most importantly is for us to really tidy up the election so that we can prevent a situation where we have legally empowered officials as against legitimately empowered officials. You know, it was a tragedy in 2019 to see in some states, in some senatorial districts, in some House of Representative constituents, for us to have people who enjoyed some kind of legitimacy in the legal perspective, but of course, in terms of popular opinion, in terms of popular votes, you know, they weren't qualified to be sitting on the seats that they presently are.
All right. Yeah. Well, Babajide Adeniyi, you would have to say thank you so much.